Hey, what's up guys? Sean here with Apollo. In 2021, we dropped the hottest entry-level commuter on the market, the Apollo Air and Air Pro. Now we claim it's the ultimate commuter, portable, stylish, and powerful enough to get you from point A to point B, but any company can make those kinds of claims without backing them up. So we thought we should put it to the test and do a proper comparison with some of the current top-selling entry-level scooters on the market. Our first challenger is the Gotrax G4, a super light scooter at the top of their lineup, boasting a top speed of 20 miles per hour with built-in security features. Will this scooter live up to its name and go? Tracks. And in the other corner, we have the Segway-Ninebot Max G30LP. Try saying that 3 times fast. But what it lacks in name conciseness, it makes up for with a sturdily built frame and a clever folding mechanism. Will the Segway make the competition fold? Find out now on the ultimate entry-level scooter showdown. We're here at the world-famous circuit Gilles Villeneuve, host of one of the longest-running Grand Prix races of F1, and a beautiful public park right in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. With a total track length of 2.7 miles and a maximum elevation change of 17 feet between the highest and lowest points, this should be the perfect place to put our scooters through the paces. Our scoring categories today will be speed, range, hill climbing ability, braking, ride quality, portability, design, and of course, price point. We'll also be using a scoring system that will assign 1 point to second place and 2 points to first place, so we can not only see who comes out on top in each category, but who has the best overall score. Who will bring the best value per dollar? Scooters, start your engines. All right, first up, just a simple speed test. What's the maximum top speed I'm able to achieve consistently on each scooter? Now for reference, I'm roughly 5'9" and 155 pounds. We've also downloaded a third-party speedometer app so we can accurately mark the top speed I'm able to get to and verify that each scooter speedometer is accurate. Now the Gotrax claims the fastest top speed coming in at 20 miles per hour. Will it be the proverbial cheetah of the bunch, or is it just a cheater? Let's find out with a good old-fashioned drag race. And the results are in. Now the Gotrax was able to reach its advertised top speed of 20 miles per hour, but only after giving it a full head start. You'll also notice that on the kickstart, I had to give myself an extra little push to get going because that thumb throttle is not very responsive and I have to get up to 5 miles per hour in order for it to go. The Segway was able to hit up to 19.8 miles per hour, but only on the first run that we did. Even after just one run, I was not able to achieve the same results. Now, this might explain its lofty range estimates as it seems to maximize range over top speed. And last but certainly not least, our very own Apollo Air Pro was also able to hit 20 miles per hour, but in the other 2 runs was only able to get up to 19.8. Still, that is above our advertised top speed of 18 miles per hour, and I have to say the throttle responsiveness felt a lot better than the other 2 scooters. All right, time for the scoring. Now, I'm almost tempted to give a minus point to the Gotrax because of how poor the throttle response is, but it did still reach the same top speed as our Air Pro, so we'll call it a second place tie with 1 point each, and none for Gretchen Wieners. Now when it comes to testing the range, I can't exactly ride each of these scooters for hours on end until the battery dies, or I'll be here all night. But what I can do is ride each scooter around the track 3 times for a total length of 8.1 miles and extrapolate the full expected range from that. What will be really interesting to find out is the difference between advertised range versus when riding at top speed. Most manufacturers advertise their full expected range under ideal conditions and riding on the lowest speed settings. We try to provide a more realistic expectation. The Ninebot Max G30LP, while not as long range as the original Max, still claims a pretty decent expectation of 25 miles per charge. However, we know that the original Max actually restricted power to the motor when the battery was below 70% in order to reach those lofty 40-mile range estimates. How well would the G30 fare when at top speed? right. After a very cold 9 laps around the track, we're ready to check our results. Now the Ninebot and the Air both have 5 battery bars in total, so we'll have to take that into account when calculating our full expected range. That means each bar roughly represents about 20% battery usage. Now the Gotrax only has 4 battery bars, meaning each bar represents roughly 25% battery usage. Now the Ninebot is down by 1 bar, and the second bar is starting to flash, which is pretty surprising actually. So it's not quite 40%, we'll say it's about 35. The Air, which is down by 1 bar, and it dropped about halfway through my 3rd lap, we'll say it's a little over 20% usage. And the Gotrax, also down by 1 bar, could be anywhere from 25 to 40% usage. We'll take the average and say it's a little over 30. Now, the Gotrax seems to limit its top speed when under a certain battery level, which could explain why I was able to beat the Ninebot in range. After only about 1 lap or so, I was only able to hit 15.5 miles per hour. Now, it is important to remember your results will vary depending on a variety of different factors such as rider weight, riding conditions, wind speed, and even your tire pressure. So if that was 8.1 miles for 3 laps, that would mean you expect roughly about 13.4 miles for the Ninebot at full throttle, 13.6 miles for the Gotrax at full throttle, and 14.2 miles for the Air. Now, these are all pretty similar, and I have to admit you're probably not going to notice the difference of 0.8 miles, but since we do have to award a winner here, I guess that'd be the Air, followed by the Gotrax? Wait, really? Guess so. Now, I think it's time to go charge these scooters again so we can complete the rest of our testing.
1 scooter charge later.
And we're back. Now you may notice the Montreal biosphere, which we have featured in previous videos, and should be the perfect location for both our hill climbing and braking tests due to the roughly 10% incline behind me. Now, although these are meant as entry-level commuters, they still need to be powerful enough to tackle small hills, as no one wants to get stuck halfway up and have to push yourself the rest of the way like poor Sisyphus. For our hill climbing test, we'll be measuring both how quickly each scooter climbs the hill and the top speed each one reaches. Now they all have pretty similar specs, but the Air and the Gotrax did record the fastest top speeds at our drag race. Will that carry over to our hill climbing test? Let's find out. All right, we had to come back to the office for this one because it was close. Now we had to overlay each of the hill climbs in order to get an accurate result, and I have to say I'm surprised. The Segway felt the slowest going up the hill, and the Air Pro felt the fastest, but they all evened out in the end, making this a 3-way tie. That's 1 point each. All right, now it's time for the braking test, and for this we're measuring the braking distance from 15 miles per hour to 0, and then from top speed to 0. And I should be able to get a pretty good head of steam coming down this hill. Now, since the Air and the Ninebot both have front drum brakes, they will likely be more efficient than the Gotrax, although the Gotrax is the lightest, which may play in its favor. Now, for fairness sake, we have left all the brakes as they were when they came out of the box. So without further ado, let's brake some scooters. All right, this is a close one, kind of. Now, the Ninebot had the shorter braking distance when going from 15 miles per hour to 0, but the Air was able to stop about 1.5 feet shorter when going from top speed. I will say I do kind of like the brake lever action on the Ninebot more than the Air, but other than that, you should be expecting roughly the same amount of braking strength on both, since they both have front drum brakes. Now, even though the Air had the better braking distance from top speed, to show we aren't completely biased, we'll call this one a draw as well, and say 1 point each for the Ninebot and the Air. And then there was the Gotrax. I think that speaks for itself. When it comes to ride quality, the Air Pro is the only scooter that actually features any kind of suspension. While the other two scooters are still relatively comfortable to ride on with their pneumatic tires, we have been riding on very smooth ground right now. And on the bumpy roads here in Montreal, the suspension is definitely a big feature to have. So we brought the scooters to this rumble strip to try and shake things up a little bit and demonstrate the effect that suspension can have. The Gotrax and the Ninebot were both pretty bumpy, and the pneumatic tires are definitely not enough to act as a softener. Now, it's nice having the slightly wider deck on the Ninebot, but the taller handlebars on the Gotrax definitely feel much more stable. And, well, there's no surprise who wins this category. The Air Pro, obviously. And even though it does look like I'm still bouncing around quite a bit, the impact is much softer due to having the front fork suspension. We'll say 2 points for the Air Pro, and 1 point each for the Ninebot and Gotrax. So now we know how each scooter performs and how well they stack up against each other. But what about portability and design? This one's a little subjective, but we can provide some straight facts on aspects like deck size, suspension, and general dimensions of the scooters. Since these are supposed to be entry-level commuters, how light and portable are they? The Segway has the smallest deck, just barely, but it has a brilliantly simplistic folding mechanism that's easy to use and feels very secure. However, the little rectangular latch that locks the scooter when folded down is just off-center. And while it does snap into place relatively easy, it makes it a little awkward to pick up on one side. It also has the shortest handlebars. Now, I'm not exactly Andre the Giant, but even at 5'9", I find them a little too short for my comfort. But that should mean it also has the smallest dimensions when folded up, which theoretically means it's the most portable, right? The Gotrax, on the other hand, has a longer deck and is just a hair wider, although it doesn't necessarily feel that way. So if you have big feet or like to have your feet spaced far apart, you may not find either of these scooters the most comfortable. However, I have to say I really like the locking mechanism from when the scooters folded down. It's just a simple spring-loaded latch you snap into place and boom, it's ready to pick up. The bright red is a little garish, but to each their own, and I think this feature alone gives it serious portability points. Now the Air Pro technically has the largest deck due to its unique shape and design, and the front suspension definitely adds to its size as well. However, in our opinion, these are necessary trade-offs to make a more enjoyable ride. My feet can be spaced comfortably apart in the deck, and as we saw in the previous test, the dual front suspension is great at mitigating most bumps in the road. And while our clamshell folding mechanism may not be as snazzy as a Segway, we still feel it's more than secure enough and simple to use. Now, what about the weight of each of these scooters? The Air Pro and the Segway actually both come in at the same weight of 38.6 pounds, despite the Segway's much chunkier design. The Gotrax is lighter still at 36 pounds. So while you may not be slinging these over your shoulders to carry around town all day, these are still some of the lightest electric scooters you'll find on the market. Alright, now for the scoring. Because the Segway had the smallest dimensions, but the Gotrax was the lightest, we're calling this a tie in terms of portability, with 1 point for each of them. Now, does this mean our Air Pro is not portable? Definitely not. But you can't win all of them, and it still easily fits in the trunk of your car. In terms of design and build quality, the Gotrax feels like the price point you pay for it. Kind of cheap and rather boring in terms of its looks. And for counting the throttle responsiveness as part of its design, well, there's not much hope for it in this category, I'm afraid. It does have this little cable lock that's built into the frame, but to be honest, it's not really going to do a whole lot. I didn't even notice it the first time I pulled it out of the box. The Ninebot has that ubiquitous scooter look to it, but is that really a good thing? At first glance, it looks almost exactly like the Xiaomi's, and do you really just want to blend in with everyone else? The Ninebot is actually quite solid, though we were impressed with how it feels, but the kickstand feels a little cheap, although it does have a nice action to it. Now when it comes down to pure looks, we can't go with anything other than the Air Pro. Its all black, sleek design makes it by far the best looking scooter of the trio, based purely on superficial ratings. But it does have thicker 3.25-inch wide square profile tires, which kind of helps its tank-like image. It also means there's more rubber contact with the ground at any point, leading to a very smooth and stable ride that feels like you're gliding. And while it is technically the largest of these small scooters, that's also part of what makes it the most comfortable to ride. The handlebars are at a comfortable height and the tapered deck feels the roomiest of the three. Now, since we have to name a second place finisher as well, I'm going to give that to the Segway due to its effective folding mechanism and how solid the scooter feels overall, especially compared to the Gotrax. Alright, it's time for the last category and the easiest one, price. Now the Gotrax is the least expensive scooter, usually retailing for around 600 USD. However, in my humble opinion, it really reflects its price and feels the cheapest of the three. The Segway is the most expensive, coming around 900 USD, and while it is fairly sturdy and well built, it's a little rich for our taste, especially considering everything we've seen in the scooter so far. So does this make our Air Pro, which retails for 800 USD, the best value scooter compared here? I'm inclined to say yes, but I'll let you guys decide that. To round out the category, that's 2 points for the Gotrax and 1 point for the Air Pro, coming in second place. Alright, it's time for the final review and results. Let's go one by one here, starting with the Gotrax. Now I like the taller handlebars on it, and the locking mechanism when the scooter's folded down, but that's pretty much it. Sure, it was one of the faster scooters we tested, and it is the lightest, but I really hated that throttle response, that I have to push myself up to about 5 miles per hour before we'll even engage. There doesn't seem to be any way around that, and no zero-start method either. Very disappointing. There also doesn't seem to be a way to change the speed units from miles per hour to kilometers per hour, which may not be a big deal for most of our viewers, but for our fellow Canadians, it is a minor annoyance. As for the scoring, it really only won the price category and came second in pretty much everything else. So that gives it a total score of 7 points. Now for the Ninebot. The folding mechanism on the scooter is our favorite part. However, as I mentioned before, I'm not really a fan of the way it locks and folded down. For as popular as the Ninebot is though, it didn't really stand out in any other category, and only finished as high as second in all categories but 3. Considering the price point, we kind of expected more from it. Surprisingly, the Ninebot comes in at a lower score than the Gotrax, finishing with only 5 points. Last but certainly not least, the Air Pro. Good suspension, smooth throttle, and enough speed and range to keep up with the rest, the Air Pro finished first in the design, range, and ride quality categories, and finished second in everything else but portability. Now again, that doesn't mean it's not portable, but compared to the other 2 scooters, it is less compact. Now adding all the categories together adds to a total of 10 points, making the Air Pro our overall winner. There are a lot of choices on the entry-level scooter market right now, but at the end of the day, we just want you to find the perfect scooter for you. We hope you found this both informative and helpful, and let us know what scooters you think we should compare next. Thanks again for watching, guys, and as always, ride safe.